records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Valco.
You decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is.
Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're
Come
having trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope you will take this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is the one seed that needs to be planted.
What do we do live? It goes in eternity.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, and welcome to Esoteric Truth Radio with your host, Trinity. Tonight, I was supposed to have a guest on, so I sincerely apologize that did not come through, but that does not mean I am not going to have a fantastic show ready for you guys tonight. So let's first start with how you can help out Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and fantastic content such as this. It is very easy. If you found this, you'll definitely find a way to go to the archives. Now, on freedomslips.com, you can go to archives on the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you can enter the archives for as little as $4.95 a month. Now, the bonus here is not that you just get to hear this this show or the show before or after, you get access to all of the shows, which is fantastic. That means you get to, you don't miss anything whatsoever. So it's very self-explanatory. It tells you how to sign up right at the bottom of the page and get all of your listening time on. You'll never have to worry about missing another show or missing any important information that freedomslips.com is willing to give to all of you fantastic people. So, of course, I am your host, Trinity. I am so glad that you are here. And I had to kind of get all of my information rather quickly. So you're going to have to bear with me this evening. But the gist of it is pretty simple. Throughout a lot of the shows that I've done over the years, actually, I think that it's very important that we discuss how we turn into what we are today. We can all agree that there are people in power right now that have a huge stronghold on us. But if we discuss just the problems that we're going through right now and we don't see how we got to this point, then it's pretty much useless. We could talk about wars and we could talk about guns and we could talk about politics, but if we don't understand how we're divided on those issues, we cannot, under no circumstance, figure out how to actually fix the problem. Now, the information is out there. And even though it is pretty difficult if you're not really familiar with research, the bonus will always be that there are people like myself and people that participate here as hosts and guests on Revolution Radio that will help you with that process. Now, of course, you take everybody, including my information, with a grain of salt, because the research is for you. It's for you to make the ultimate decision in what you want to do for yourself and how much you can handle. We can't just be, completely overloaded because then we get absolutely nowhere. So I want to discuss something that I think is really, really important. And I find myself kind of going in full circle because even though I know that the information is there and I know that it's, I don't want to say simple to understand because it's not. What they did is they made information that can explain to you why you feel the way you feel about certain things. They make it boring, right? So they make these articles that are just 85 and 90 pages long, definitions you have to look up in the dictionary. Nothing is easy to understand. Even when it was kind of easy and we had a better education process where school would actually teach you things, we no longer live in that kind of a society. We have high school graduates that can't read, kids going to college that can't do basic math, dropout rates that are horrendous, schools that can't afford chalk. So we have a lot of issues when it comes down to that. So that means for future generations, it's only going to get worse unless we find a way to make this easier for people to understand. Videos are quite helpful. I know that YouTube is one of those places that you could either enjoy for 100 hours straight of cats and yarn, or you can go completely bonkers by trying to understand who might be telling the truth and who might be telling a lie. And that's really, really hard to do unless you understand certain techniques. Now, I found a couple of months back, there's a lot of software, video format, a lot of them are free, a lot of audio software and things like that, very easy. If you don't have a lot of money and you have a couple of minutes to learn, you can do a video within minutes, depending on the length. Now, if you want to get a little bit, I'm gonna say sneakier. I'm just gonna use that word. If you want to get a little sneakier, you can pay something as cheap as $30, and it'll give you a subliminal program. So what it'll do is it'll teach you how to put your video or your information in layers. Now, mind you, this is for anybody. Anybody off the street can buy this and insert what they choose. So knowing that, and then knowing the kind of technology that is available by the people that are actually in control, that describes our television and our movies. If we all know there's 6 stations within the United States that control 98% of the media, we have to now try to dissect how it is that they are dividing us with a tool that we use for what we think is information and what they use as a tool for re-educating us in the in the book 1984's terminology. It's a way to show us that not only can they control and not only do they control, but they have us to voluntarily pay for it, to take hours of our time and our lives. It's educating our children. Uh, and in the most horrible way, by the way. I know there's a lot of people that are huge fans of a program called Baby Einstein. There's tons of videos you can find online with little kids reading words. And I'm talking about like second, third grade words here that are read by infants, 11 months, maybe 12 months old. And they're showing it off as if the kid understands the words. They do not. They do not. That is how we are now teaching. We want them to memorize, but never fully comprehend what they're memorizing. So we're taking up space, right? It's like having a storage space, a storage bin, and you fill it up with things, uh, unnecessary things when you know that, you can take out the crap you're never going to use again and stuff you don't care for, but you don't do that. When you fill that up with too much space, it's harder to put the important things in. That's what they're doing to us in my eyes, 3 different ways as far as the US. Now, I bring up the US because this is where I live, but this is a worldwide issue. I'll be able to explain to you why I said the US and why I'm pointing this part out, but that it is a worldwide problem. There's a word called semiotics, not semantics or anything like that. It's semiotics. I bumped into this quite a few years ago, and it made me understand things like books, religions, New Age, and how we started comprehending a ton of our own information, but how we were accepting others' information so wholeheartedly. And it became very, very scary until I found out what semiotics was and how our brains identify photos or images, and just by taking something with one color or adding a dash, we can have a whole picture that's red and a little bit of white. And our brains would go towards red for stop, red for blood, red for fear. And even though that might not be what the picture is supposed to convey, our brains do things on their own unless we understand what this process actually is. So back in 1994, there was a book written called Signs of Life in the USA. And it was written by Sonia Masick and Jack Solomon. Now, I'm only going to read a portion of a very small part, but it's going to pretty much explain how we see not just each other here, considering we like to call ourselves a diverse country, but why we see others so differently than us. Now, there's a meme written by somebody in she's a graphic novelist. And quote, this is what she says: "The world is not divided between East and West. You are American, I am Iranian. We don't know each other, but we talk and we understand each other perfectly. The difference between you and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me. And the difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you. And our governments are very much the same." When you start to understand that and understand the true divide, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me or you, I'm sure there's a very large, diverse group of listeners here. Some of us might be living in a very nice home and enjoying ourselves in luxury, and others might be, it's winter, cold, can't afford a nice place. We're going through 2 different things, but we have a hell of a lot more in common because we're all listening to the same type of information. We're all looking for the same types of truths. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this, and it's going to give you a little bit more of an opening on how they separate men, women, and children. It's no longer a man-woman issue or a feminine-masculine issue. Our children have now been invaded in mass, and we're allowing it to happen, but they're doing it under the guise of information, under the guise of education, and we're accepting that. I don't know who coined the term multitasking in the sense that we use it now. So somebody says, oh, I just don't have enough time in the day. You can't do 8 things at once. You can teach your brain that that's what you're doing. You may have 8 things, but you're not doing 8 things at one time. We will teach ourselves that we have so much to do that even the most important things can wait for another time. So let me get into this really quick. All right. Okay. It says here, there are the kinds of questions there that semiotics invites you to ask. They may be put more generally. When analyzing any popular cultural phenomenon, always ask yourself questions like these. Why does this thing look the way it does? Why are they saying this? Why am I doing this? What are they really saying? What am I really doing? In short, take nothing for granted when analyzing any image or activity. Take, for instance, the reason you may have joined the health club or decided not to. Did you happen to respond to a photo ad that showed you a gorgeous girl or guy with a nice looking guy or girl in the background? On the surface of the ad, you simply see an image showing or denoting a patron of the club. You may think, I want to look like that, but there's probably another dimension to the ad's appeal. The ad may show you someone with a nice body, but what it is suggesting is that this club is a good place to pick up a hot date. That's why there's that other figure in the background. That's supposed to be you. The one in the foreground is the sort of person you are being promised you'll find at the club. That doesn't say this, of course, but that's what it wants you to think because that's a more effective way to get you to join. Suggestion is a more powerful stimulant than denotation, but it is often deliberately masked in the signs you are presented with every day. Semiotics, one might say, reveals the smoke screens around you. Health club membership drives, you may be thinking, aren't especially political, though actually they are when you think of the kinds of bodies they are telling you are desirable to have. But the powerful effect of a concealed suggestion is used all the time in actual political campaigns. The now infamous Willie Horton episode during the 1988 presidential campaign provides a classic instance. What happened was this. Some Republican supporters of George Bush's candidacy ran a series of TV ads featuring the photographic image of one Willie Horton, a convicted rapist from Massachusetts who murdered someone while on parole. Now, on the surface, the ad simply showed or denoted this fact. But what they connotated was racial hatred and fear, as Willie Horton is black, and they were very effective in prompting white voters to mistrust Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis and to vote instead for George Bush. Okay, now understanding how they were using that, we know of a more famous case where Kerry and Bush were running, and there was an ad that ran, and then the screen would go really, really fast, and I can't even remember who found it, but it actually said the word rats on it. He then apologized, and he said, I had no clue. That must have been the people that made it. I don't do video editing. I'm running for president. He completely took himself out of the equation of understanding or even claiming to have known or heard on how subliminal works. When that started happening, we started openly discussing subliminal messages. Now, I did a show a couple of weeks ago about the reptilian brain, and that's image. So I wanted to do semiotics. Our televisions are not just images, but they are also are part of our hearing, which is the auditory part. But I want to tell you about something called the SSSS, and it's the silent sound spread spectrum. And this was a secret Pentagon psychotronic technology that was been operational since 1990. Let me find the patent number for you, because you know that I'm not going to come over here and tell you this stuff and not find a way for you to go get it. Okay, well, I'll definitely bring it up. Okay, so we know that there are tons and tons and tons of ways for them to get us to do what they want. So we see crowds and we see television and we see all of these things happening, and we're confused, we're angry, and we have a tendency of forgetting that anything that we learn on a very small scale is already very well known and is already expertly used by those that have a certain amount of power over us. Anybody listening to anything in this realm at all is completely aware of that. The patent number, by the way, before I forget, is US patent number 5159703, and it was developed by Dr. Oliver Lowry of Georgia. The abstract for the patent reads, quote, a silent communication system in which non-oral carriers in the very low or very high audio frequency range or in the adjacent ultrasonic frequency spectrum are amplitude or frequency modulated with the desired intelligence and propagated acoustically or vibrationally for inducement into the brain, typically through the use of loudspeakers, earphones, or piezoelectric transducers. So it's pretty much anything that you're listening to. They're making earbuds smaller and smaller. Noise canceling is great. I have noise canceling headphones to do this show. But as far as using it to solely listen to certain things, I won't do that. Especially when you start realizing that if you don't know that these kinds of things exist, then it becomes an issue. So this guy put that out, and there was some literature by a place called Silent Sounds Incorporated. Now, anytime you do anything this awesome, you patent anything this kind of awesome, the government will find a way to get itself involved. So the U.S. Department of Defense got involved, all of these other things. It's in every television, it's on every laptop, every computer. Older models, of course, would have more outdated technology, but don't think that it's not there. Don't think for 1 second that that stuff is not in your home, at least in one place, because it absolutely is. This is the entire purpose, to get us to at least be under some form of control. So we know that we have the weaponry. We know that we have the technology. We know that they are completely full of crap, that there are black projects all over the place. This is what they do. This is how good they are. We have think tanks everywhere, including places like Tavistock. I'm going to tell you a quote from Tavistock Institute, which I will be doing a show about them in a couple of weeks. Quote, as Tavistock's researchers showed, it was important that the victims of mass brainwashing not be aware that their environment was being controlled. There should thus be a vast number of sources for information whose message can be verified slightly so as to mask the sense of external control. So if I tell you there's a guy named Oliver Lowry and he has the patent, I gave you a name, I gave you a location, I gave you a patent number. You're not automatically, or if you tell this to people that don't research, they're not going to associate it with government agencies. They're associated with some dude in Georgia. They want us to at least have some type of information, but not to fully know what's going on with it, who truly owns it, the amount of fraud and the amount of misinformation. As I said in the beginning of this, six corporate entities own all of the media, even the ones that are international, including our government's hands, very much into that. So we're constantly living under the illusion that we get different kinds of information. Everybody's like, oh, you're so stupid, you listen to Fox. Fox is no different than CNN. CNN is no different than HNN. HNN is no different than ABC. All of them are the exact same thing. So every time we go ahead and we have these disagreements about who's telling the better news, we should be saying, why are they all telling us the same lies? But we won't see it that way. So here's another quote. This is concerning media. I want to focus at least my first hour on media. So there was a media expert named Hal Becker. And quote, this is what he says. I know the secret of making the average American believe anything I want him to. Just let me control television. You put something on the television and it becomes a reality. If the world outside the TV set contradicts the images, people start trying to change the world to make it like the TV set images. That is one of the most telling things ever, because these kinds of comments were not made last week or even 5 years ago. This has been in place since the invention of the television for home use. We assume that the first TV came out, and when it came out to be sold to everybody, those in power didn't have televisions. They had better televisions. They had better technology already. And they were like, well, these are the crumbs. These are the scraps. Give it to the minions and let them have this little piece of technology. And then they're going to think, we're bumping up into the Jetsons age. That's not how it works. And we're going to have to at least start coming to certain conclusions. Television now is worse than it was. And there was a US statistic that showed, and this was back in, can't find it. Okay, well, anyway. So they said 99% of households own at least one TV. There are 2.24 TVs per family. The television remains open 7 hours a day. 66% eat in front of the television sets. The addiction starts right after birth, since 30% of kids who are 0 to 1 years old and 40% of the 5 to 8-year-olds have television in their rooms. A typical U.S. child spends 3.5 minutes per week in meaningful conversation with a parent, but 1,680 minutes per week in front of the TV. Is this why television is called the one-eyed babysitter? By the time they are 65, most people have seen 2 million TV ads, and this phenomenon is becoming global. The entire population of Earth has become addicted to television. If one decides to quit the TV habit, they experience psychological withdrawal symptoms that can be as severe as those related to drug or alcohol abuse. There is a direct relationship between child obesity, which is severe, for 11% of 6 to 17-year-olds in the US, and advertisements, since the most popular types of commercials are related to junk food. A study counted more than 200 junk food ads during 4 hours of cartoons on Saturday morning television in the US. When compared with radio listening, television is more impactful because there are pictures. The more there are to accompany a special news report, the more tangible it seems, and the lesser the chance of people questioning its accuracy. So even though all of us have eaten out, we go, it's probably really late at night, you're sitting at home, you're bored, you see a hamburger commercial, and the juice is oozing, and it looks like the best thing you've ever seen. Your brain's like, oh man, I'm hungry. Get in your car, drive to this place, order exactly what you saw on TV. You go home, you open it up, and it literally looks like it fell out of a window. Like somebody, a blind person, actually has put this whole sandwich together. The lettuce is wilted. The burger is the size of a penny. Even though we know that's going to happen. We know that's going to happen. We have taught ourselves to not associate the actual quality of the television telling us the food is delicious and that should be expected. You should be able to go home. If I buy something that's on TV and it looks that way, I should be able to open that container or wrapper or whatever and see the exact same thing. We have actually taught ourselves that the TV will actually cause us to go buy the food, but we're never going to truly question the quality of the food. That's why McDonald's got so big, even though we were saying silly putties in the the chicken nuggets, and there's all kinds of crap in the fries, and it took that documentary Super Size Me for anybody to really wake up to know that right now we have not been eating food for a very, very long time. Not real food. Not real food. We took the comfort, we took the information, we took the image. We actually took the image and thought of food, not quality of food, content of food, or our life sustainability. Why we even eat food to survive. How did they manage to make us not realize that we shut that off? They make us spend the money, but we're literally eating trash, like literally. And they know it, and it works. We wouldn't have the health crisis that we have here outside of everything we know that's happening with the doctors and big pharma. I'm talking about the quality of life that we give ourselves by physically going to these places and consuming these items on our own based on advertisements. People that work at McDonald's don't eat at McDonald's unless they absolutely have to. You're never going to see a McDonald's employee that's off and see them in McDonald's eating that. They already got it. They know the process. They know what's there and they know it's crap. But it doesn't stop us. They have done their research since as early as the 1920s when the Tavistock Institute decided to look into human behavior, social manipulation. It has been going on with so much stuff, so many places. Nobody tells us anything. So we're blindly walking around just blaming ourselves. I blame my neighbor blames the neighbor besides them. We all blame each other. We never see the true culprit. We cannot see and fix a problem if we don't actually associate where it actually comes from. Its original origins. This is the origins. Semiotics is explaining to you how they were able to control us with sound and image and cause us to self-destruct on our own. They are physically removing generationally our innate genes to survive. Everybody was worried how many years? We talk about the Georgia Guidestones. We talk about all these places, they're trying to kill us with the air and the water and the this and the that. Yes, that is actually happening. But they actually found a way to kill us in mass, but get us to actually commit suicide. Because that's what it ultimately, it turns into something far more sinister than all of that. We are actually doing self-harm in mass. And we're angry with each other about it. Not angry with the corporations that produce it. Not angry with the people that allow it, the people that are supposed to back the people. We don't get mad at them. We want to talk to them about wars in other countries. We want to talk to them about guns. We want to see what Trump is talking about. We want to do all of that. And we want to argue amongst each other. But we don't actually want to change it. That for us, that's too much. Don't take my Pizza Hut and Diet Coke, Don't take my aspartame and crap. Every single place that has a fast food origin has been in trouble for many, many violations. We go, we get mad, we protest them for 2-3 days, and boom, we're right back. For every McDonald's that closes, there's another McDonald's that opens. It's a franchise, it works. You're going to find more people that want to ignore this kind of a message than those who want to confront it. So for those that are taking that time and those that are saying, I need to know what they're doing to me, what they're truly doing to me, besides the water, and I know what they're doing to the water. I know what they're doing to the air. You can't run from the Flint, Michigan water crisis. You can't run from the things that are happening here. We know that. The gas leaks, the amount of oil that we're producing in the water. All of these things cannot be ignored. But we cannot fight them if we can't even get off of our own basic problems. And that's what we are doing to ourselves by ourselves. They're not physically coming into my home. And I'm not talking about the way they're doing it on TV. I'm talking about like there isn't a tank on my street forcing me to go to McDonald's. I'm talking about the true culprit is in your home because you're watching it. You're paying them to mass hypnotize you so that you would be cool with just saying, it's okay. As long as I eat 6 or 7 of these Big Macs, it'll be fine. As long as I don't do it every day, I can be worse. I do that sometimes. When I'm so exhausted, I can't do anything else. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm better than anybody else. I screw up a lot. I know that there's a problem, and sometimes my finances are just, there's nothing I can do about it. Sometimes I just can't avoid buying something that I know isn't best for me. But I don't lie about it. I do see the problem and I want to fix it. I just know I can't fix it by myself. I don't need a bazillion people, 2 or 3 people, and every county alone could shut down Every place that is selling crap, every single place in the United States, we could shut it down in, I'm going to say 24 hours if we did it right. But you would first have to understand that places like the Tavistock Institute, we can't just keep calling them the powers that be. We can't just keep calling them the New World Order. We can't just keep calling them the Illuminati. These people have names, they have addresses, they have chairmen, they have board members. These are real people. If we only associate them with a symbol, the way that semiotics works, they are actually making us do that. Look into any other place on the planet. The pyramid is not a bad thing in most places. The swastika is not bad in most places. And people refuse to see why some images are made the way that they are. We automatically associate it. And not only did they do that with just giant symbols that controlled our happiness and our fear, but now we do it to each other based on our clothing, the cars we drive, the jobs that we have, and the places that we live. So if a guy pulled up on a corner and he came out of a Porsche, I don't go up to him and say, I think you're rich. I'm going to automatically assume he is just based on his car. He could be the valet driver. And what he would look like coming out of the car would be irrelevant to my image. It would be the car itself. So they know how we work. They know how symbols work. And when they started finding out that we were making these graphs, and I know we've all seen it, a giant graph, and then it has like it doesn't say evil, but it might as well just say evil in the middle. And then it has all of these little connecting clusters. And it has the names of, the CFR and the United Nations, all of these places. They don't want that. First of all, that thing is gigantic. I would need a old style drive-in projection to get that where I can actually see most of it. But they don't want that. So they said, let's give them something that they can all unite under. They gave us the names of things that they knew we weren't going to research or find out the truth about. And if we did, they would call it history. And not the kind of history that we should know. It would be an evil history, or it would be associated with some kind of an evil being like the devil or, whatever. So we have the pyramid, and then we have the Illuminati. They actually told us, these are the people you need to be angry with. Stop looking at us. We're just regular people. We eat and we put on one shoe like everybody else. That none of that stuff is real. So they gave us somebody. But they gave us an image to be angry with. An image. One. Every time somebody puts their hands together, oh, there's a triangle. Yeah, that's what our hands do. That doesn't mean they're part of a sinister group. So we associate their hand symbols or their hand gestures and not what they're saying or doing, not actions. That same person can have the hand signal. Somebody take a photo, a screenshot of it, post it all over the internet, and everybody be like, oh my God, that person's in some secret society and they're out to kill us. And I'm sorry, excuse me. They're out to kill us and blah, blah, blah. We don't play the image. Or we don't discuss what they were doing when that hand signal happened. None of that. They actually taught us to ignore that. That the alarm is the symbol, not the action. Sorry, I had to mute because I was choking over here. Anyway, so when you start realizing that all of this stuff actually happens, when we have the men, and then we have women, and then we have children. We already discussed the percentage at least. And I think those numbers are very, very, very low considering how many other things we're actually doing. Because here it says with a 2012 budget of around $6 billion, and that was in 2012, it made up 10 institutions, 400 subsidiary companies, and 3,000 study groups. And this is the Tavistock's guide for the multinationals such as the Rand Corporation. And Rand would go under media, politics, defense, health stuff, all of that. And the MITRE Corp. So Stanford and the Hudson Institutes. All of those places can be looked up, and they all have very fancy websites. And it'll even say about us. Like you click it and it'll tell you about, oh, we've been trying to help out cultural diversity in the world, and we're planting trees somewhere in the Amazon. So they're not going to tell you what they're really doing there. They're giving you access to what they would consider um, a fluff piece, right? So that's when you have to say, okay, I see what you want me to see, blah, blah, blah. Let me go and try to find out what else there is. Nobody really goes past that. Nobody goes past that. And they can't. It's too damn scary. When you start doing something like that, the images are now changing. That means that when you see TV again and you look after hearing something like this, you see the hand symbol, you won't pause it and say, oh man, look at that. Looks like the Illuminati to me. No, you're going to be like, okay, could you pause that and rewind it a little bit? Because I didn't really hear what that person really said. Or where did this come from? Or who is spreading this? Very simple. They have everything in our political world, everything in that scene is nothing but a giant mirage. That's it. That's a stage. And when those people get to leave, they take that flag down, they remove the podiums, they remove the mics, and it's just the stage. And we have to start understanding that. They think that we can't do things ourselves. They've taught us well, by the way. There's a lot of us who really think we can't do the next step. Sure, I can tell you the building blocks of every single thing that they do. And ultimately, you could still say, well, Trinity, seriously, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that? Just understanding that those corporations alone, just those alone, and that's 5, I think, that I mentioned, times that by 1,000, then your focus can change. Then you can say, oh, okay. You're not saying that they're, in these caves, they're not in the deep underground military bases trying to figure out their next move. They're not doing any of that stuff. I'm not saying that they're not doing it for other reasons. I'm saying for this particular reason, everyone who keeps saying that this is all some kind of a way to get us to do other things. We're doing it now. The depopulation of the planet we are doing to ourselves. Nobody is doing it to us. And now I don't mean that they're not poisoning the water, or that chemtrails aren't real, or that we have enough food additives and inside of what we could eat in one day that wouldn't kill somebody from an indigenous person from the Amazon. They would probably just keel over that day. So I understand that. What I'm saying is that by us ignoring that they are the ones, that it's not me and it's not you that are doing these things, but that the fact that we're ignoring so many things, it's going to keep happening because we won't say no. We won't. I'm not telling you to starve. I'm not telling you to not drive. I'm not telling you not to go to work. I'm not even telling you not to pay your taxes, which I think nobody should. But I'm not going to tell you not to do that. In order to beat the system, sometimes you got to be part of it. And that's what we're doing now. But there's a time, and they're terrified of us joining together. They're tired of researchers, people that are speaking out, them having to hire more and more disinfo agents and trolls to tell us to be quiet. They're tired. They don't want to keep doing that. They don't want to keep doing that. So the louder we speak, the more we bring it up, the more we don't give these symbols some kind of feeling, or we don't take our anger and we put it towards the symbol. It's people. It's people, other people. I don't really care if you think they're hybrids or aliens or reptilians. You can do whatever you like. Just understand that it's out there. Their numbers are not as high as you think. It really is. For 7 billion people on the planet, the amount of people that control it, we should be able to get them all out in a day. Our numbers are higher. Our intelligence is higher. Poor, rich, tall, skinny, black, white. The thing that we all have in common is our deep feeling to survive, our fight or flight. And they're altering that every single day. Every day. Every other week, they have a new HD TV. They have a new Netflix. Have you seen this thing? Netflix binge? Really? You know, you don't have enough time to go and spend time with your kids having a conversation, but you could binge 9, 10 hours worth of television programs. Where do you think that comes from? Where does your addiction to next week's episode? Not tomorrow when you have to get up and, live real life. Where do you think all of those things come from? That's not voluntary. Not at all. It's mass hypnosis. If the patent is there, the information is there, the papers are there, the secret projects are there, the Freedom of Information Act files are there. Why is it that we still refuse to see it? Because we gave it a freaking symbol. We gave it a symbol. A symbol that we could never ignore. Never. So we're just going to keep doing this over and over and over again. When I do come back, for the second hour, I'm going to give you all the information about the silent sound spread spectrum, because not only is the Pentagon still using it, it's actually been used in 1991 during the first Gulf War. And it actually worked. It worked. According to the articles, and I'm talking about from the government, and this has all been exposed, in 1991, it was used during the first Gulf War to manipulate Iraqi troops into surrendering en masse. Like complacent children, 200,000 men came out of their desert bunkers and fell to their knees before approaching U.S. troops. Now, I ask you, if they have a weapon or they have the technology in order to cause 200,000 people who are obviously very angry, these people aren't just going to the grocery store, these people have guns, these people want those troops murdered, right? Came out, said, screw it. I don't know what's going on with me, but all of a sudden, I don't feel like fighting you anymore. I just want to go wherever you tell me to go. So imagine, for every single thing that can be confirmed where the sound spectrum has been used openly, because our government has said that they've used it. If this was back in 1990 and 1991, what kind of technology do you think they have now? If we see riots, we see people upset all over the world, not just here in the US. If they could make you surrender, they can make you happy, they can make you angry, they can make you violent, they can make you scared. That's the entire reason that this is out there. This isn't just called the, sound spectrum give up machine. It's not what it is. And for every single thing that they show right here, look at this. There was back the statistics. Now, mind you, this was in 1988, but it's even worse now because now we have a bazillion channels. And in a 124-hour cycle, they did one paper and just watched TV all day long. They had a bunch of people watching TV. Okay. I'm sorry, 1 week of TV, I mean. The viewers witnessed 670 murders, 15 rapes, 848 fights, 419 shootings or explosions, 11 armed robberies, 8 suicides, 32 hostage takings, 27 torture scenes, 13 strangulations, and 11 war scenes. So what are they trying to tell us? What could they possibly be telling us? What are they telling your kids? If we know that they have the subliminals, we know that they have mind control, we know mass hypnosis, and we know about the sound spectrum. All three of those things are in that flat screen in your house. Right? So your kid is sitting there watching it. Now we have a rating system on everybody's television. It'll tell you like Y or G or TV14 or, like R and stuff like that. Okay. Every single one of those particular ratings have their own setup. So their sound spectrum will be different. What your kids can hear and what you as an adult can hear is different. There's in Japan, in order to get children from loitering in front of the department stores, there's a tone frequency that only under a certain age range, I think it's under 18 or 19. If you're under that age, you can't stand there because the noise is like a dog whistle and you can't just stand in front of it. So a lot of other places have been implementing that. It's not illegal to have. I think you can get it as an app on your phone. right now. You can get it as an app. You can do it for people over 40 and children. I don't know if there's a third age range. So imagine what your kids could hear and you can't. Imagine what your husband can hear during sports and you hear during soap operas. The division, scary as hell, and very, very real. So every time they're telling you, and we're like, oh, honey, come watch the football game with me, or come watch the soap opera with me. They can't stand it. It's upsetting. I know that if my ex-husband was playing a video game, I hated it. A violent video game, especially, I couldn't be there. I tried to sit there for a little while, and it wasn't just the imagery that bugged me. For some reason, I felt wrong of being there. So when I found out about the sound spectrum, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I started watching things that would be considered girly. And I'd say, hey, just come here for a couple of minutes and try to watch it. He'd go nuts. I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to end? When is there going to be a commercial? And I'm like, oh, okay. Let me look a little further into this. And then found out it's a program you can buy. You can do this to anybody at any point in time. It is really not that difficult. And it has been perfected. Of course, they're not giving us the top notch mind control stuff. Of course not. Of course not. We have like the pre-kindergarten techniques available online. And the stuff that can get 200,000 troops to lay down their weapons and literally walk to the enemy, yeah. That's their stuff. And that was in the 1990s. So anytime I see riots, anytime I see incidences where it seems very unusual for the reactions of groups and people in mass, I automatically don't think, wow, those idiots are really stupid. What are they doing? I think, I'm going to see how this plays out. Because if something else is different, you're going to be able to spot it. You can see it. But you just have to know what you're looking for. After a while, it's literally so in your face that you just kind of get it. It makes sense. You're like, oh boy. Of course, you're going to get bored. And yes, you're not going to be able to enjoy the game the way you used to, or enjoy that soap opera the way that you used to. And of course, you have to be careful with your kids because they want to watch what all the other kids are watching. And because you can't hear their frequency, then it makes it a little more difficult. But that does explain why kids are going nuts. That does explain why we're becoming more divided based on television, not real life. For every person that gets mad at somebody else, you're not there. You don't know these people. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But you will spew hate and anger quickly. And nobody thinks about where the hell that comes from. Where does that come from? Who's pulling your strings? We're going to have to come to that time where when the curtain actually opens and we see who's behind it, it's going to be heartbreaking and it's going to be tragic. I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for your kids. I don't want that for any kids. And I don't even want it for me, and I don't want it for you. But if I don't tell you, if I know this and I don't tell you anything, I'm just as bad. Then yeah, it becomes my problem. My responsibility isn't you, but I have a voice. I got 2 hours on Sundays, and I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to have this damn conversation. And I'm appreciative for everybody who does understand that it's much larger. There's a way bigger picture. This isn't the ancient times. We can't just keep blaming this on entities of whatever. These are people. These are people. And they're screwing us big time. And now we're screwing each other. And not in a good way. So when I get back, I really hope to get into the sound spectrum part and tell you about my exciting guest for next week, which I'm really, really excited about. I may have a small 5-minute video that I might be able to play when we get back as well. So that's really cool. I'll see if it actually works itself out. And let's see. Hold on 1 second. Yes, and then we're also going to get into the wonder weapons. So that's going to be really awesome. And then how they're fooling us with this laser thing, how we think of them like lightsabers from Star Wars. So I really do hope you come back for the second hour because this is going to be really well. I'm going to leave you some links. As soon as I come back, I have some stuff to tell you, but then we're going to go right into me repeating the patent, the article, the authors of the article that I just read, and there's a couple of other places that I want you to check out as well. Let me see. Oh, and the Moscow show trials, so that you understand how they're doing that to us individually, especially like on places like Court TV and documentaries like How to Make a Murderer, and that other guy killed those people. Damn it. I really thought I was going to have his name. But we can talk about how that's happening and how we're reacting. We're not in the cases, happened a long time ago. But we're starting to take this, very personal, and how we can actually change that. How we can start helping each other as opposed to helping those people that want to turn us into walking, talking zombies. See you in a little bit.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Who owns you? If you're not in control, then someone else is. Join me, Ivy West, for Voices on the Wind, Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern in Studio A. I discuss government, health, metaphysics, suppressed science, universal mysteries, little-known incredible facts, alternative energies, and even more than you can imagine. Won't you join us on Revolution Radio Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern for Voices on the Wind with me, Ivy West.
There are lives in the balance, people under fire, children at the cannons.
Because if your head's in the sand, your tail is a target.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com at Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hylacas MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. Very dangerous.
Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Listen in on Mondays, 8 Eastern Time on Revolution Radio for Journeys with JP. With a variety of guests giving their perspective on their journey into the now. Join me and my guests Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio Studio B.
Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What are we doing live? There goes an eternity.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back. This is Esoteric Truth on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. I am your host, Trinity, and this is the second hour. I want to throw in here really quick. Next Sunday, I will be having a guest by the name of Kennigan. Now, Kennigan is very well known in the underground circles of research on reptilian shapeshifters. Now, him and I, of course, slightly disagree on the reptilian shapeshifter concept, but he doesn't actually bring it out the way that most researchers actually do. He thinks that it's something completely different, and as I've mentioned here today and many other times, the mass confusion or how we're taught things is to hide something else. He has been on the scene for over 10 years, has a huge following on YouTube and on internet forums, and this is his very first interview ever. So I am so looking forward to that. And of course, I have been trying to get other people's research, hosts and sites such as Revolution Radio, who I try to throw out there as much as I possibly can, as this place is literally running and functioning, not just by the fantastic people that are behind the scenes, but also those of you that participate. So you can also come to esoterictruthradio.com. I have a favorite or best YouTube channel, a documentary club. Every other day, I put up a new 2 hour or sometimes more documentary. It has a chat room and everything else. You could leave me any message that you like, including if you'd like to be a guest on Esoteric Truth Radio on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. So anyway, please look forward to. I'm really looking forward to this interview next week. Okay, so back to the actual topic. Now, understanding and them absolutely confirming, and I'm talking about the government here, that 200,000 plus people during wartime actually surrendered using weaponry or what they call non-lethal weapons. Now, when people understand or hear the term non-lethal, they just assume it doesn't kill you, so it's less effective. You have to think in your mind right now, if I started walking up to you and I got a way to get your wallet and everything in it, the keys to your house and your car, non-lethally, would you be more concerned that I didn't kill you, or how the hell did I get you to do that? So they'll use words in a certain way so that you focus on one thing and not on the other. So the U.S. News and World Report ran an article a few years back called Wonder Weapons. So Wonder Weapons is it. The fact that they keep telling us these things and the fact that we refuse to do any older research, I never really look into stuff for the last 10 years. Because if you start just thinking that research, whistleblowers, and everything is very recent, you'd be absolutely wrong. This has been going on for a very long time. So I usually bring up articles from the 90s, sometimes the 80s, and if I'm bringing up a book or something like that, I'll bring up stuff from the 1800s. I don't care. But this is just to make sure that you understand this is not new. This is not new. If you live to be 1,000 years old, imagine the amount of information and lessons you would have learned from information and things that you've seen and done in that amount of time. So even though we live and we die, that information falls into certain people's hands, and it's usually the victors. We already know how that plays itself out. So back in the 1980s, before we had stun guns, the ones that police use nowadays, there was an infomercial in the middle of the night, and it was horrific. And it was for a pulse wave non-lethal device that you could buy literally in the middle of the night, the same way that you could buy Jack LaLanne's juicer or rotisserie for chicken. It's much smaller than the what the police use now. It was like the size of a pack of cigarettes. Now, the commercial, though as horrific as it was, it actually sold itself on crime in America. So it had these horrific scenes on a lady, she's in an elevator and a guy's like, trying to sexually harass her in an elevator, and she zaps the crap out of him. The door's open and he's laying on the floor. So apparently any kind of situation you can get into, this doesn't shock you the way stun guns do. And this is why it's no longer really available. I think you can find it. I doubt if they're selling any now, because I think they perfected it, and it's ways for them to do it. But the infomercial wound up being famous later on when people started realizing that we're older and that we're younger and didn't know infomercials like this played late, on TV. So even if you can find, and the commercials actually online, it does have, viewer discretion is advised on it, because it shows very aggressive scenes and the reason why you would actually need it. And the time that it was there was like in 1996, but it was supposed to scare the living crap out of you. Very small device. Now, it's called a pulse wave because it doesn't work by shocking you, as in like your blood, or like if you would put your finger in a plug or put a fork in the plug. No. This actually affects your brain, and actually it puts you into what some would say a catatonic state for a pretty long period of time. Now, we know that stun guns can kill people because the cops are doing it all the time. So we know, but that's a large amount of voltage. This one worked just a little bit different and scared the living crap out of people. So around 1998, they decided, the Joint Economics Committee decided that they were going to have to talk out loud about some of these things. So there was a hearing on radio frequency weapons and proliferation, and it was called The Potential Impact on the Economy. Now, they're worried about the money. They're not worried about your brain turning into mush or anything like that, because this actual product not only put you in a catatonic state for a long period of time. If you didn't get medical help, you could actually become a vegetable, crap your pants, just wind up laying wherever this happens. So let's say you try to do something to somebody on the train track, you would stay on the track. If the person left you there, you would lay on the track, a train would come, and there was nothing you could do about it. You could see the train, but you couldn't get away. So when they started realizing regular people on the street shouldn't have this, because we have a tendency of forgetting as well, we fear ourselves, our own protection from being mugged or being raped or getting our car taken, or being robbed at the ATM. But we forget that criminals also have televisions. They also watch infomercials in the middle of the night and have 4 payments of $39.95. So when you start realizing that anybody right off the street could walk around with this, we don't ask the right questions. Not at all. We think of self-protective mode and forget about the people we're protecting ourselves from, or the types of people that we're trying to protect ourselves from. And this is how they get to enhance their weaponry, by allowing regular old people to zap each other, to put each other in these horrific circumstances, and watch from the sidelines. So after having this hearing, they started saying, okay, we really have to be careful about, first of all, what we're saying, because now they were able to turn it into like a homeland security type situation, where they were like, okay, DARPA has to get involved, and we can't really start talking about this out in the open. The last thing we want people to know is that we have electronic warfare. And in order for it to work on 200,000 Iraqis, it has to work here first. So if you think about the way that the system actually works, we would have to be the first guinea pigs. Science, medicine, anything you try had to have some kind of a training technique done on something before that. So we were taught 70s and 80s that we did it to rabbits and that we did it to monkeys and stuff like that. And as long as we did it to animals, everybody just assumed we didn't do it to people. And of course, we know that that's bull, because we have trials that you can find on Craigslist. I think 10 people died last week during clinical trials of some medication off of an ad. So we know that as long they made it so it's voluntary, they no longer just put you in the psych ward and start injecting you with things and doing all this weird stuff to you anymore. Now they'll pay you a couple $100 and say, just sign this form, and if you die, we don't have anything to do with that. And because we're so desperate for money, we'll do it. I don't know of an easier way to understand how the system works, when people voluntarily put their lives on the line for cash. Not because we want extra cash, but because we don't have any. So besides doing it in the jail systems, besides doing it in mental institutions, besides doing it to the very sick, people that have debilitating diseases or life-threatening diseases, or in certain stages of leukemia and cancer and all of that other stuff, those are the people that they use these things on, under the guise of, new medicine, new breakthroughs. But they need people first. Always been that way, always will be, unless we say no. So every time they tell us that we're no longer going to do this to animals, we all, hip hip hooray, but nobody ever thinks, well, we were doing it to animals for a reason. So what did they figure out that they no longer need that technique? Nobody, you have to kind of, you always have to ask. If something sounds weird or it just doesn't make any sense. When they were like, oh, we're not going to do this, we're going to free all the monkeys and we're going to free all the birds and the mice, and we're not going to do this to them anymore. I'm like, but who's going to do the trials? I'm not saying that they should do it to animals. What I'm saying is, in their mental, well, not their mental capacity, our mental capacity, we're accepting and taking it as a win that it's not happening in animals without asking, the follow-up question. Okay, then now how do we test? How do we make sure that this is okay for us? I mean, seriously, it's bad enough that I've always been confused on why we're willing to take medication based on how a rat reacted to the medication. Of, I'm not a rat. You're not a rat. My kid's not a rat. So if I have to do research on a medication, they're like, well, the rat lived. I'm like, yeah, whoopee for rats. But what does that have to do with me? I'm a human. If we can't ask the basic questions where we accept other animals, or so they claim, that other animals are the true collateral on longevity on humans, then we're not asking the right questions. We're not looking at the right things. Pigs and cows and chimps and rabbits and mice are not humans. What happens to them does not happen to us. They can tell us that we're half chimp all day long. Yeah, all day. I don't care. They can say we're rhesus monkeys and we're this and we're that. That's fine. You can run with that if you want to. But what about the people that are not rhesus monkeys? Do they not count? So if we're not willing to ask the proper questions and we keep taking things as wins for some odd reason, then we have arguments about vaccinations. Then we have arguments about raw milk. Then we have arguments about vitamins. And we have arguments about places like Monsanto and the people at Roundup, that we know that something is absolutely wrong. And as long as they give us one win, we walk away. We say, well, we took it and, we did what we could. We get to live another day, but at what cost? So I want to go back to what I brought up in the last hour concerning a person in the car. When we see two separate people and they're walking down the street, we see a guy in a suit and a tie, and we see a guy with sagging pants and a hoodie. And we didn't talk to them. We don't know where they're from, nothing. They can be the same color, I don't care. But we automatically, our eyes are taught now and trained now to automatically put them in a certain category. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because if you want to truly understand the control, this is how you know. If you could do that with a guy in a tie and another guy in a hoodie, and you don't associate the same type of a reaction when you're in that particular neighborhood. If you go and you see a guy with sagging pants, but he's in a bad area, you think he belongs. If you see a guy in a suit and a tie and he's on Wall Street, you think he belongs. Now picture a guy on Wall Street in a bad neighborhood and a guy with sagging pants on Wall Street. Your brain will be like, what the hell is he doing there? That makes no sense. It's not making sense. You're not seeing it as a street and a person. You're not seeing the circumstance or anything like that. Automatically, your brain is rejecting why one image is in the forefront and the other image is in the background. You can't put them together. It's like a circle and a square. So you're like, how does that peg won't go in? That peg won't go in. That's a huge issue. That's what keeps us angry and pissed off all day long. So everybody's like, oh, the refugees and this and the people. And okay, when I see a person in a burqa or I see them, with the full garb on, I see them the same way that I see a nun. She's wearing the exact same outfit. I mean, from head to toe. Have you seen a nun in a miniskirt? No, because that doesn't make any sense. But we see them, one is apparently very nice and the other one wants to blow you up. So, and it doesn't even matter that they're both women, right? Because you're not going to see a guy in a burqa. You're not going to see a guy wearing the nun's outfit. So our semiotics turn into something completely different. Now, we don't even see the gender. We only see the garb. And we're willing to walk around not realizing that we have huge disconnects. And then we fail to realize who makes those for us. They're made for us. We don't make them ourselves. We do not. Because we're not taught that way. Not as children, not as adults. Not in your fancy college or in a beautiful townhouse, and not in the projects and living in a horrible place. None of that, or just a GED. We're taught not to do it because we saw everybody like people. We took the forefront of who that person is and removed their background. We would all treat each other differently. We would all treat each other differently. Then our connect would be from me to you, and not myself and people in Congress, or not myself and the corporate entities on TV that are asking for more money, or, or me and a movie star. We connect more with people that have zero connection to us in a sense of survival than anything else. And we thrive on it. We thrive on it. Most people would rather be Angelina Jolie than be a female scientist. We have more kids that are looking for their 15 minutes of fame on YouTube as opposed to trying to direct a film that would be 15 minutes long and have them start a film career. They would rather make complete asses out of themselves and blow themselves up or fall off of balconies or whatever the hell these people are doing. And they're doing it in a mass, and we promote it. We promote it with likes, we promote it with views, we promote it with all of these things. All of them. And even though we know we have a way, or at least the concept of how we could remove ourselves from that system, we still won't do it. And that's out of fear. We're supposed to want to be better than everyone else. Nobody wants to think they're the same, because we're not the same. Believe me, I'm not going to promote that. I don't think that. I don't think we're all the same. I do think we have a common enemy. I think that's a worldwide thing. So if I took out what they teach me, right, to be scared of everybody, including the people that I interact with on a daily basis, and I start acting scared towards people, on a political debate maybe? That's a thought. Everything would change. We would no longer accept it. It would be something that we were like, no, the same way that you would see that guy in the suit and tie hanging out on the stoop of some projects, the same way that didn't connect. We have to now teach ourselves to see these people and their so-called stages and their so-called programming and make the disconnect. We have to. Because we're going to stay in this constant state of confusion if we cannot. They actually built an entire system to make sure that we are the biggest McDonald's consuming, Mountain Dew drinking, reality TV loving people. That's it. That's all they want. And then they want us to hate everybody else. That's it. They tried it in print back in the day. Ancient times, they did it in the form of plays and theater. And man, did they bump up. Now we pay $15 a pop to see crap on a movie screen. We love our indoctrination. We feed off of it. Those people the disconnect that we have in the research field, which I think there is still a huge disconnect. I don't get it. I see why, but I don't get how we don't see past it. Our divide turns into something entirely different. We no longer look for truth, and now we're worried about whose message is more important than the others. You know what I mean? Like, I'll say, okay, well, I want to talk about shoes, and then I know somebody on another station or whatever is going to talk about shoes, but my topic about shoes has to be better than their topic. How did we turn into that? How did research communities turn into that? Even the people from the 90s, and they still exist. These people still exist. And because they got so much flack for being whistleblowers back then, they don't come to the forefront anymore. They're laughing at us. They're laughing at people like me because I'm just starting to see things that they talked about 20, 30 years ago. And I don't say, oh, I'm just stupid, I didn't get it. I'm saying this is how the process actually works. It's not meant for us to just openly find. This stuff doesn't trip over you. It doesn't. You have to read some things. You're going to have to see some things. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to get you pissed off, and you're supposed to be mad. Not mad at you, or mad at yourself, or mad at your family, or your friends, or why didn't my mother tell me this? I'm still seeing people. They're just, There's more of a debate on parents still telling their kids that Santa exists, and I get into that every once in a while. It's usually around that time of year when I go through that, because I don't get it. And even though it's under the guise of tradition, the people that are now in control are telling us the exact same things. We're only following what makes everybody happy. We want the masses to be happy. I'm not part of the masses. You're not part of the masses. They want to teach us that, but that's not actually true. What's good for you may not be good for me. We're not from the same place. We're not, our experiences, how we comprehend things, who I love, who I care for. All of those things are completely different from yours. So when they tell me that I have to be in general with everybody else, or my label, or let's say I'm a woman, right? So they're like, oh, well, your thoughts have to be irrational because, you know how women are. And you're like, really? Like, I'm just right in there, right? Uh, Same thing with men, same thing with children. And we actually turned it into so many little pieces. We don't know what the hell we're doing anymore. We spend more time backing football teams. Those people make millions of dollars. You really think they care? Do you really, really, really think they care about your opinion? Do you? They don't. The people on TV, the people at the Golden Globes, the people at all, and none of those people care. They have their own little bubble and they're in it. But that machine that they put into your home, that one is the one that is actually going to run your life and tell you the rules. It reinforces the rules. When you go out into the world, you're reminded of the rules. When you go home at night, it's reinforced. We can stop it by recognizing it. I'm not telling you to throw your damn TV out. I have one TV in my room and literally there's dust all over it. I don't turn it on. I'm on my laptop. And that ain't any better, by the way. It's a little bit better, but not that much better because I don't have to see commercials. Uh, but it's not, I'm not going to put myself on this, oh, well, I only do. My subliminal and mass hypnosis is on the computer, so I'm better than you. No, 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 no. But do I ignore it or act like it doesn't happen? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. I still live on this world. I still have to eat. I still have to breathe the air. I still got to pay rent. I still got to do all of these things. I still have to play the game. But do I want to be 100% controlled by them? Absolutely not. I want to be able to see the signs to be able to walk away. We have the option to walk away and say no. Especially for kids. Especially for kids. They don't have a choice. Not at all. We're quicker to watch a video of a kid, falling off of something and getting really, really hurt. Nobody will shed a tear. You see a guy kick a puppy and people are crying. Oh my God, I can't believe they kicked that puppy. Like, where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that comes from? Will Smith is in a movie and then you're crying over the character, you're crying, we shouldn't have those emotional connects with that. When your kid gets hurt in the park and you're like, suck it up. Everything should be fine. What do you want me to do about it? So the disconnect is there. It's there and it's going to stay there as long as we have the tendency to actually ignore it. So now, as reported by the U.S. Army War College, and it's called the NLR, and that's Naval Law Review. In 2005, there was an article called "The New Advanced Mind Control Techniques Gives a New Flavor to Modern Warfare." So I'm going to read you a little bit of this because it's awesome. So it says here that defense scientists all over the planet have been working on this technology to make enemies surrender without a fight by transmitting undetectable signals into their minds. So the Russian government perfected a type of subliminal mind control technology demonstrated in a series of experiments going back to the 1970s that could be used to suppress riots, control dissidents, and demoralize opposing forces. The technology, referred to as psychocorrection, was created by the Department of Psychocorrection at the Moscow Medical Academy. It's considered a powerful subliminal it's consisted of powerful subliminal messages that can be transmitted by infrasound into the subconscious without interfering with conscious mental functions. Because the messages were transmitted below the human hearing range, these messages can be sent on their own channel. It had effects on unwilling subjects in less than a minute. And it actually mentions it here. But I said this in the first hour, the Japanese have developed similar devices also operating in the infrasonic range. And I will state this one more time in case you're only here for the second hour and you were not here for the first. Men's shows that are considered for men and directed to men, shows, music, and television that are directed for women, and music and shows that are directed to children have 3 separate sounds. They're telling us all 3 different things. Now, if this could be used in an age range, that would also explain and be more easily accessible and something that you could actually see when you see that little black box on the top of your television screen. That's not just there to tell you your kid shouldn't watch it. If you don't know that your kid shouldn't be watching Sons of Anarchy, you shouldn't have kids or a television. There should have to be no sign on your television telling you, and it's only there for like 3 seconds. That sign shouldn't be there to tell you anything. You should already know. Do you think that if my kid was watching Sons of Anarchy and my kid was 2 or 3 years old, they'd know what that sign meant and get up and just walk out the room? No. You have to see why the signs are there. They all have an initial purpose. So when you don't want to watch sports and your husband doesn't want to watch talk shows, and you're not interested in SpongeBob SquarePants, now you'll be able to have a little bit more understanding on why. So I'm going to go back to the article. It consisted of powerful subliminal messages that can be transmitted by infrasound into the subconscious. Okay, I actually read that. In order for subliminals to be successful, they must not be perceived by the conscious mind. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Not teach you, because I can't teach you anything, but I can inform you that if you know that it's there, it will not work. Don't let anybody tell you, no matter what, you're going to be hypnotized, or no matter what, you might get hypnotized. If you know that it's there, it's like being a magician and watching another magician. You see what they're doing and you already know the gist of it. Before I started making videos, I used to watch them. I was like, oh my God, look at that frame. Ooh, look at that 3D art. I was like, oh man, this is amazing stuff. I started making videos. And now when I see it, I'm like, oh man, that really took a long time. Or, oh boy, look at that crappy, look at that crappy font. Now I know. So I see things differently. It doesn't devalue it, but I do comprehend it differently. I'll know how hard, or the lack of you trying. So if the food industry is paying $1 billion a year, and that's a low number, billions of dollars a year to use the television and the radio commercials on, FM and these big stations, if they're willing to do that, they know that it works. They do not spend that billions of dollars on the FDA. They don't spend those billions of dollars on the quality of the food. How about we have some meat in that hamburger? No. It's to actually get you to purchase the product and nothing else. Keep that in mind, please. Okay. In the auditory range of human hearing, the higher the decibel, the louder the sound. This measurement of intensity also applies to the inaudible, infrasonic, and ultrasonic sound ranges. It means the higher the decibel or amplitude of the subliminal message, the better the results. This is because with regular subliminals, both the message and foreground sound occur on the exact same frequency. Because of this, regular subliminal messages average around 18 decibels, because they must be several decibels less than the foreground music in order to be concealed. However, subliminal technology, which uses the inaudible infrasonic range, by the way, that's the one that the governments use, such as the type which was perfected in Russia, is not subject to this decibel limitation. The increase in decibels allows for more powerful subliminals. For this reason, it also has its own conduit or channel directly into the subconscious mind. So I'm going to read a little bit more of this, but for those who might not understand what that meant, I'll cover it in a couple of minutes. The Psychor Center, which was associated with the Department of Psychocorrection, mentioned that the software and hardware for a computer-based psychocorrection device could be obtained for about $80,000. In addition to transmitting corrective subliminal programming, the device could allegedly probe the contents of a person's mind. In the early 1980s, the U.S. began studying this technology with the goal of bringing it under bilateral U.S. and Russian government control. Scientists, diplomats, and military officers at the Russian Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology Policy provided limited demonstrations to U.S. representatives. During this time, Dr. Janet Morris of the USGSC was the primary contact between Russia and U.S. officials regarding the transfer of this technology. She visited the Moscow Institute of Psychocorrelations in 1991, where she was shown subliminal psychocorrective methods developed at the Moscow Medical Academy. She then lectured senior U.S. intelligence and military officials on this technology. Then, in October of 1992, U.S. patent number 51599703, Silent Subliminal Presentation System, or also known as Silent Sound and Clear Channel, was issued to Dr. Oliver Lowery. It is an inaudible form of communication that occurs just beyond human hearing range, nearing ultrasound, or just below it, nearing infrasound. Because of this, it is similar to the Russian technology. Mind you, they're saying similar, but not exactly the same. If there's anybody, by the way, I'm going to throw this in there before I keep going. If you're curious, or I'm saying words that you have been taught and did not know was propaganda, most countries on this planet work in unison. When somebody tells you Russia, and they use words like Russia, communist, fascist, Marxist, Republicans, Democrats, all of those words are propaganda. They all work as one. All of them. They always have. If you go into the Freedom of Information Act files, there was a movie called SALT. And until that movie came out, I swear it, I did not know that there was an actual thing called the SALT Treaty. I didn't even know there was two parts to the treaty and that they were out, available on government websites. Read that, and then a little bit of this will make sense. Because I know some people are like, oh, I knew the Russians would not, no. We always work together with governments. We're not part of the government. So we're not privy to that information. I'm telling you because you can find that out real easy, and it took me many years to find that out. But as I keep going, I don't want anybody to lose their train of thought and understanding that they work together as one. There is no separate entity where we are fighting any other place. The people are fighting because we are under their control. These people are not fighting. You're never going to see a death match between Obama and Putin. That's never going to happen. You're never going to see anything like that. We walk around, we exchange things. I'm sure these guys have late night calls over, dinner and whiskey. Do not think that we live in a place where we are against everyone and everyone is against us. It has nothing to do with the higher ups and the people in control. The fight is amongst us. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Because silent sound is transmitted above or below the threshold of human hearing, its power, or amplitude in decibel, is not limited the way regular subliminals are, which must be covered by a foreground sound. In addition, this high amplitude suggestion is transmitted on its very own channel of frequency with no other competing sound. For this reason, the technology is also referred to as clear channel. Silent sound is not just a different type of subliminal. It is completely silent. No foreground sound is necessary. It can influence thoughts and emotions, and due to its inaudible nature, it is undetectable under normal conditions. Furthermore, the frequency, which is above or below human hearing, is a direct conduit into the subconscious mind. So, the high-powered suggestions can be transmitted directly into the subconscious with no conscious filtering. These messages can be transmitted in real time over public address PA systems, which are in schools, by the way, or standard radio and TV broadcasts, which is in everybody's house, car, school, store, etc. They can also be recorded and replayed on mechanical, digital, or magnetic media, such as tapes, CDs, video cassettes, digital tape recorders, and various types of computer memory. I love that I read this older stuff because if anybody was thinking that this only worked on the technology we have now because of Wi-Fi, the fact that they can repeat, the sound would only have to play the same way that a videotape is recorded on that tape and the sound is also on that tape. You pop it into a VCR player and it plays as long as you keep hearing it. And it's the same sound, it will produce the same type of reaction over and over and over again. So don't think for 1 second this hasn't been going on. It tapes, CDs. Come on, when's the last time you seen a VCR tape? Okay, so the whole Brain Learning Institute, or the WBLI, creator of projects like Brainstorm, Brainstream, and BrainSpeak, mentions how the use of silent sound by the US DoD during the first Gulf War resulted in the surrender of many Iraqi soldiers. Now you can experience the latest achievement in subliminal technology they announced, a method just declassified and until recently used only by the US Department of Defense. Their products use silent sound technology in the high ultra audio frequency range, with a power output of 90 to 100 decibels. As a comparison, a loud radio registers at about 80. Even the deaf can be influenced by this technology. Can you imagine? Okay. Their staff includes behaviorists, lifestyle experts, accelerated learning specialists, as well as noted composers and engineers. Their silent sound products include neurolinguistic programming techniques. Love me some NLP. I don't do NLP on radio. I do it in video form and not on radio because it's something that you have to actually see to kind of comprehend. It's pretty much just hands and symbology and stuff like that. You can go to esoterictruthradio.com and go under the link that says the good, the bad, and the ugly truth. And I have some NLP stuff and MK Ultra stuff in there that talks about NLP. That is one of the most important techniques that are used. When you start seeing that we have weapons like this, we have wonder weapons, we have the pulse wave, radios, TV, hand signals, all of this stuff, then you'll start realizing the bigger picture of why you might not be happy all of the time. And then not understand why. But anyway, so during the first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein's primary C2 capabilities were destroyed, his troops were forced to listen to regular FM radio stations for their encoded orders. A U.S. PSYOP unit used this opportunity to install a portable FM broadcast transmitter on top of the highest building in the city of Al-Khafji. I'm probably not saying that right. Anyway, there they transmitted a high-powered 100 megahertz signal to overpower the Iraqi station, which was transmitting on the exact same frequency. This programming consisted of patriotic and religious music, as well as intentionally contradictory military orders. The broadcast also consisted of inaudible negative silent sound programming, which allegedly devastated the Iraqi soldiers. Although completely silent to the human ear, reported the British television network ITV News on March 23rd in 1991, the negative voice messages were clearly perceived by the subconscious mind of the Iraqi soldiers, and the silent messages completely demoralized them and instilled a perpetual feeling of fear and hopelessness. The non-lethal weapons, terms, and references report by the U.S. Air Force Institute for National Security Studies uses the exact Russian term psychocorrection, which it describes as an NLW technology that can influence people with subliminal messages. Similarly, the Naval Law Review's article, A Primer on the Employment of Non-Lethal Weapons of 1998, mentions how subliminal mind control is to be used. Normally, the conscious mind acts as a typical or a type of firewall to filter destructive ideas from being acted upon. I'm going to repeat that. Normally, the conscious mind acts as a type of firewall to filter destructive ideas from being acted upon. Because this technology bypasses that mechanism, actions resulting from ideas that did not originate from the target's own mind can occur. I had a couple of guests on a couple of weeks ago. I had Angela Black and Amanda Prosser, and we were discussing Voice to Skull. I had Laura Cross on last week. talking about My Labs, MK Ultra, and also Voice the Skull, which she's actually a survivor of. They tell you in all of these things. I'm saying some of these things and I'm repeating them just in case. Get the archives if you need it. But these things are very easy to find. There was a time when we were much more forward about our crap. And that's why these kinds of things are reported in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. Considering we're so much smarter now and we have so much information now, nobody's really discussing these things. And if they are, they're seen as the most loony. And then everybody else that's just talking about, Trump and a gun issue here are ignoring it. So the information's out there. We have more cases of people going completely bonkers, by the way, from just watching television. We have that Slender Man stabbing. We have all of these lone gunman shootings where people just go bonkers for no apparent reason. If we understand who's controlling these things, I'm not saying the regular guy down the block has an antenna on the top of his roof that's causing people to go crazy. I'm saying that the people that are telling us to look at Jay-Z and the Illuminati and Beyonce is the queen of Satan, those people are the ones that are actually using these weapons on us, but giving us scapegoats so we can watch, so that we can be consumed with, so that we can ignore the background. You know what I mean? Sure, she can sing. Do I care what she was wearing, what she was doing? No, but most people do. Because they're told that she's holding some kind of a secret. She's not holding a secret. Jay-Z's not holding a secret. The music industry and Hollywood, the only secrets that they truly have is that they run the show. They run the bigger show. They're the reality TV producers of our lives, our real lives. I did a show a couple of years back. There's an actual terminology in the psychiatric community called the Truman. Not the Truman illness. Anyway, so there's a diagnosis now where, and they named it after the Truman Show that Jim Carrey was in, where he believes that, people are watching. You know how many people started coming? It became a thing because people would be sitting at home going nuts and saying, I can hear them. They're talking to me. I know that they're watching me. They could hear clapping. They can hear laughing like a sitcom. Like if you are literally living on a TV set and there's a live audience in your home. So if they tell us the truth and they say, okay, they got 200,000 Iraqis to give up, or, ooh, we did this, we outsmarted Saddam Hussein. So we say, yay, win, look how smart we are. Never, never, never really picking up on what they're saying. What they're saying is, yay, we have that. Yay, we keep that. Yeah, we're putting these technologies in the things that we're forcing you to use at this point. A couple of years back, then they tell you, get rid of those regular boxes. We want you to have high quality TV everywhere. So we're going to give you these new boxes. So you have the best stuff, not the best food, not the best education. We're not going to help with jobs or anything, but we will surely bust our butts. The government will pay to make sure you got these boxes in your home. I would have been okay with a $50 gift card to a local supermarket. I'd have taken that before I got a converter box. I bet you most of the nation would have took the money to a local, food store or, supermarket. You hear me? A food store, a local supermarket or, something like that would be helpful. Nope. They didn't do that. They wanted to make sure that everything that they're doing actually works. So if they give it to you for free and they tell you, don't worry, we got your back, we will do everything in our power to make sure that you have. Not what you need, no, what we think you should have. So before I would use the term Illuminati, before the New World Order, before any secret society, they're literally like the overlords, right? So they're our parents, they're, wagging the finger. You don't really need that. No. You put that broccoli down and you go get that Big Mac. That Big Mac, that broccoli stalk, that doesn't have oozing cheese on it. Where's the big meaty quadruple heart attack burger, And then when I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get away from eating meat, people are like, oh, you must be crazy. Yes. Okay. I don't mind being called crazy for that. It's okay. But the majority of the people that are walking on this planet are terrified to be called crazy. They're terrified to be called different. They're part of that system. Only a couple of us are going to be able to get out a little bit at a time. I think we can all get out, but it's going to have to be because we're not afraid to share. Everybody wants to say the same thing. I'm okay with that. That's fine. I like being outside of that because then I know that, if you come on here on Sundays, you're going to hear something different and something new. Go and research things from the 60s, 70s, 80s. There's a website called theblackvault.com. This guy, he used to be on the old 1990s shows that were like Ancient Aliens now, but those shows from the 90s. Can't even remember the name of it. But he has paid for and written to all government agencies and has the highest free available Freedom of Information Act files. So before I do research, before I come on shows, before I go on as a guest anywhere else, I make sure I discuss that there are ways for you to find this information. This isn't a secret. I'm not the only one privy to it. I didn't work behind the scenes at the FDA or for Monsanto or for Voice to Skull. I'm not an insider in that sense, but I'm an insider in an entirely different kind of sense. And I want you to have the same amount of information as I do. I can't ask you to stand with me or people like me and not give you the tools to understand what I understand. I'm not going to say, well, you should just know better. No. I want to tell you we can work together. Here's a great step. So there's a paragraph left. I'm going to do that. Have a couple of minutes left. So anyway, the military's review in December of 1980 reports. The new mental battlefield describes this technology as thought induction techniques. In the report, Dr. John Alexander explained, quote, the unique factor is that the recipient will not be aware that thoughts have been implanted from an external source. He or she will believe the thoughts are their own, that they are original. Janet Morris indicated that a portable handheld device exists that can be used for crowd control, anti-personal actions, and other special operations. As far as it has become possible to probe and correct psychic contents of human beings despite their will and consciousness by instrumental means, announced the Russian Psychor Center. Quote, results having been achieved can get out of control and can be used with inhumane purposes. All of this stuff is out there. All of this stuff is in your face. Can't get away from it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get you the patent number once more, just in case. Hold on one second. Okay, one of the things is called Wonder Weapons. We have the S. It's going to be easier if you remember it this way and you do your search with SSSS. Oh, no, don't do that on YouTube, by the way. I did that and a whole other bunch of stuff came out. So just do Subliminal System and then do SSSS. I did that 4 X's earlier. I did not get the results I wanted. But it's also Silent Sound Subliminal System. And the patent number is 5159703. Wonder Weapons. Oh, and if you want to see that horrific infomercial, it's the Myotron Pulse Wave. It's MYOTRON Pulse Wave. And you can find the horrific and disturbing infomercial from the 90s there. I forgot to mention the Moscow trials. Please look that up concerning this. This is where a lot of the original techniques were used. And when they found out that they can subliminally mind control you with hypnosis, they can actually get you to admit to anything they wanted, including crimes, war crimes. So a lot of people that are in control will find somebody who's doesn't have the mental capacity, let's say, to fight it, or they can be bombarded with it so that they don't have to deny the crime happened, just deny their involvement and get someone else to take the rap. So I know I don't have to say that. I'm sure everybody knows that's been happening since the beginning of history. But the one that you could visually see, some of the footage is actually available online. Much of the information of how it worked is also online, and it's called the Moscow Show Trials. That's a fantastic way to look into it. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I covered everything that I had out here. Again, I want to thank you guys. Please join me next Sunday. Kinnigan will be my guest. I hope that you guys had as much fun as I did. I wasn't even really prepared for tonight. A big shout out to every single person who literally takes the time to listen, participate, be a part of Revolution Radio. And we need to start getting this information out there. Share it, start telling people, do a little bit of research. It really won't take that long. This isn't anything underground. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you're a writer, or you have blogs or anything, or you have a website that you have, and you want to be in the same kind of a place where everybody can find things, you can reach me on Esoteric Truth Radio on Facebook. So I've been adding people. You can find everybody on one page. Those listeners